It's spring and it's honey extraction time. So I am here in my garage with my friend Roger, and we are set up to extract some honey. We're hoping to get at least 100 pounds of honey today. Here we have one of the honey supers ready to be extracted, and let me just share with you our setup. I've got a wet hand rag here because things do have a tendency to get sticky. I've got my fan here this year instead of the air conditioner. It's cooler, and the fan, I think, it will work great to keep us nice and cool. I've got an empty super here to put in the extracted frames, and then I will take those outside, let the bees clean that out. This year I added some screen here to the bottom of this container because in the past the cappings drop down but they can't drain. Hopefully this will keep the cappings off the bottom of the container and allow it to drain the honey, because there's a lot of honey that comes off on those cappings. Notice that we have a screw sticking up, and that's going to be our pivot point. We have a brand new hot knife that the Montgomery County Beekeepers Association has purchased, and we have our extractor that belongs to the Montgomery County Beekeepers Association. The best investment I've ever made is the $12 a year I pay for my membership at the Montgomery County Beekeepers Association, because I get all this equipment here, the hot knife, the container, the board here with the screw, the several $100 extractor, the screens, everything is included in my membership. We're going to take the supers, decap them, put them in here, spin them about 150 times, turn them over, spin them again. In the meantime, they'll be dripping down through here, and I have a 400 micron screen mesh. I don't like the 600 because the 600 is too large. And then that'll drip down in here. John from the group made this bucket, which is, I think, very ingenious. He simply took a 4-gallon bucket, cut a hole in the middle, put some dowels through it, and that raises this up off the bucket. Otherwise you lose that much space with this down inside your bucket. Since we're doing a lot of honey, it's nice to not take up that space inside the bucket. Alright, so let's go take a look at the bees. We have one honey super in here now, and let's see how many we have to extract today. It is right at noon on Saturday, so I wanted to wait till about midday so the bees are out foraging and we have less bees to work with. As you can see, I've got my bottom 2 brood boxes here, and anything above it has honey in it that we want to remove. So we've got one super in the garage, and here we have 2, and then we've got 4 here and then 1 there. We'll take a look at those, make sure that they're ready to be extracted. I know that some of them have larvae in them, so we're not going to be able to extract all the frames. The center hive is running out of space, and so we may have to extract some honey from the bottom simply to give the queen some more room to lay eggs so they don't want to swarm. I'm using a product called Fisher's Bee Quick. I really like this product. It smells nice, it's organic, it doesn't harm the bees, it smells like almonds to me. And what I have here is a fume board that I purchased online. I don't remember which bee supply company. It has felt inside. You can make this yourself if you want. I prefer to buy it. And on the outside I took some can of 99-cent black spray paint I bought at a big box store and sprayed it black, because what we want is heat. Fortunately, right now at the moment we have overcast skies, and so it's going to take a little bit longer for this to work. Generally this will work in about 5 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Bee Quick, spray it all the way through the felt here, making sure I get in all 4 corners, through the center, set it on the first beehive. Then we're going to go inside and extract the first super. It takes about 10 minutes to extract a super with how slow I am, and that should give us enough time to come back out, get the next super that we've just driven all the bees down from, bring that in the garage, start working on that, and put this down on the next one. So we're just kind of moving down through the hive, and there's no downtime. Here you see the fume board here on the top of the first hive. We'll let that set while we go through and extract the first super that we have in the garage. Roger's inside doing the extraction, and it's been about 10 minutes. You can see that the bees are coming out of the beehives because of the fume board. That means it's probably been on there a little bit too long. So I'm going to take the fume board and the top super off. I will reapply some more Bee Quick on the fume board, put it on the next one down, so they'll start leaving that one. Then I'll take the one on top and take it in the garage for extraction. If the fume board is working properly, you'll open it up and you'll see just a couple of bees. Here, one thing we notice is that we have more bees than normal, and that is an indication to me that there is brood in this super. The bees will leave honey much more readily than they will leave the brood. So I'm going to have to take my brush some of these bees off before I take them into the garage. As you can see, I was correct. There is brood in the honey super. And so this frame I am not going to extract honey from. And this frame I'm not going to extract honey from. It looks like about 5 or 6 or more of these frames I will not be extracting because there is brood in there. So that's not a problem because I'm just going to let these bees hatch and I'll come back in a month or so and have another extraction. That way I'm not killing any bees, but I'm extracting the amount of honey that I can at this time. You'll also notice that I have added a queen excluder right down here to keep the queen from coming back up in here and laying eggs. Here is a frame that I'm not going to extract, although it is pretty much all honey and just very little eggs. You can see a bee is emerging right before our eyes. There were a couple nurse bees with her helping her come out, but I brushed them off. So this is a very cool thing for me to see. I'm not worried about the honey. The honey's a bonus, but I don't want to kill my bees off just to get the honey when I can do it later and there won't be any brood in here. You notice to the right of this bee coming out is another bee emerging. She's just breaking through the wax. Here comes a nurse bee coming over to help him out, and I'll just put this back in the super. Looks like I'm going to extract 3 frames out of this super. Okay, here we have the master decapper, Roger. Looks like he's been doing it for a lifetime, and this is his first time he's done it, but he goes down here nice and slow, smoothly, and takes a nice little slice of the cappings right off the foundation. I like to take as little wax off as possible. We do use it for hand lotions and other things, lip balm, but we don't have a lot of demand for it, and I'd really rather save the bees from having to take the effort and the resources to make new wax. This is the top brood box from this hive, and as you can see, 6 out of 8 frames were packed with honey. This is where they've been storing the honey, and the queen has been going up past this up to the honey supers and laying eggs up there. So we extracted the honey from these frames in the brood box, which I typically don't do, but we did it so that she has room down below in the brood box to lay eggs. Here we have a new device for us. This is called a honey scraper, I think, and it works really well. It works much faster than the heated knife, and it takes off very little. I mean, it is so amazing how little bit of wax it takes off. I'm just impressed. You can see here below the little bit of wax that's coming off compared to the pile of wax that we have on the other side that we got from using the hot knife. Now, if you want wax to make lip balm and lotions and candles, then you may want to use the knife. But this is very fast, it's very smooth, and it does a great job. This is another tool that the Montgomery County Beekeepers Association has purchased for us to use, and we are the first people to use it, and I'm very impressed with it. Here we have 3 bees emerging. One's really working on it, but she's just kind of squeezing her way out of the comb. Well, I don't think we have enough time to watch them come all the way out. There you see bees emerging. This happens to be in the honey super, and so since there were only a couple bees on here, I decided to go ahead and extract this. We'll wait till these girls get out. There she comes. There she is. She made it. She better hold on. But there you saw it. A bee emerge. Alright, so we've seen a couple different ways to take the cappings off. We're just going to go old school. This is a kitchen knife here. It's actually a very nice serrated kitchen knife. It's called Blend It Up. We got it with our Vitamix. So I'm just going across the frame here, and you can see it's just slicing off a beautiful thin layer of cappings. This works well if the cappings are above the wood. If they are below the wood, it's a little bit harder to get it off, as you can see here. So you just have to kind of angle the knife just a little bit, just kind of angle it in like that to get the rest of the cappings off. But here, it's going to be difficult to get those off. But I'm not too worried. If I leave some on there, this is going to go back to the beehive and the bees will use this honey. So there you go, 3 different ways to decap. Here is the leftover wax from the harvest. These are the cappings, and we have quite a bit of cappings here. This goes way down into the bucket. This is a nice deep bucket. This is a 4-gallon bucket, and we've got a lot of wax. So I'm excited to melt this down in my solar oven and to be able to use this to make lip balm and hand lotions and so forth. Please watch my previous video when I demonstrate how I do that. You don't have to have a solar oven to do it, but it's quick and easy and clean. I haven't found a better or easier way to do it than how I use the solar oven to do it. And you get beautiful golden clean beeswax. So this will be all filtered through the paper towel and drop down into a pool of water, and we will have a beautiful brick of golden wax. It is Monday evening, and the bees have left these supers that I left out for them to clean. So let's see how well of a job that they did. You can see all kinds of speckles here. This is from the bees being up here for the last 2 days cleaning these. And they have done an absolutely incredible job. These are not sticky. There is not a drop of honey left anywhere. Now sometimes you'll see that they'll actually chew and take some of the wax back with them. They have done a great job. This has saved me a ton of work, and the bees get to use it in their hive. So I'm very pleased with the results from this and appreciate their job in getting these cleaned up. Let's just take another look. Very, very clean. Yes. But that doesn't absolve me from doing my job in cleanup. I will take these frames now and put all of them in the deep freeze for 24 hours at least. That way, in case there are any wax moth larvae in there or any other eggs, they will be frozen and killed. Then after that, I will wrap them in a 35-gallon garbage bag and keep them in my garage. Here's just the garbage bags that I use. Depending on how thick it is, I may use 1 or 2 bags, and then I'll usually just use a rubber band and close up the end of the bag. I also put in these moth ice crystals. It's important that you get the right crystals, so look for only this type of a jar. It's NO's brand moth ice crystals. I'll have a link below this video. So in case a wax moth happens to bore through these black bags in my garage and want to lay some eggs, this moth ice crystals will kill any moth larvae that happen to be there, but will not affect the bees. By the time winter comes around and spring is back and I'm ready to use these bags, the crystals have already dissolved. I put them inside of a snack bag, and I take a knife and just punch a bunch of little holes in it to help the crystals fumes get into the bag and kill anything that's inside the bag. This frame came with my very first nuke 3 years ago. I don't know how old it was then, but it's at least 3 years older now, and it is a dirty, dirty frame. This is a wax foundation. I could melt this down, and I might just do that just to see what it's like, but I'll melt it down separately so I don't mix it in with the other wax. It is time to retire this frame. You can see the edge is broken off, and it's just really dirty. The reason why you like to retire frames after about 3 years is to prevent disease and toxic buildup from whatever the bees might bring back when they're out foraging. I did not clean this frame myself. I just left it out for the bees to clean up, and they did a good job on this one too. After using 5 different ways to decap wax, I've decided that the way that I like the best, that's the quickest for me and has the cleanest results, is this knife right here. This is great, and this is great. I don't need electricity for this. It always works. It's a nice flexible blade. It's sort of like a fillet knife, serrated, so it goes through heavy comb, thick pieces, and doesn't tear it up. When I hit thick pieces with either of these, it tears up the wax. This works really great if the wax is laid perfectly across the frames. This also works on medium and large frames. This works pretty good, although it seemed to not heat up fast enough. I was waiting a long time for it to heat up as I was cutting down the frame. So in this case, keep it simple for me. Next time I have a harvest, I think I'll just use this right here. It'll save me on all the cleanup. It took me about an hour and a half to clean up the tools, the buckets, the extractor, and everything that I borrowed from the club. So anticipate taking time to get things cleaned up. Now, I didn't have to buy any of this equipment. It comes free for use with my membership in the Bee Club, and the members have been really, really good about doing a good job in cleaning things and returning them to the club. Only once have I ever received something that I had to clean before I could use it. And the way I resolved that was make sure that the next person who borrowed it after me didn't have to worry about it. Didn't get upset. I just made sure it was really clean when I was done with it. As I said before, people get into beekeeping for the honey, and they get out of beekeeping because of the honey and the work. I started extracting at noon on Saturday and was done extracting the last frame at 8:30 that night. But for the amount of honey we got, I would say it's time well spent. Let's see how much honey we actually harvested. We brought the basket inside because it's cooler inside. The honey is still quite warm. And here my wife is filling up the pint jars of honey. We had some really thick honeycomb. When I decapped it, it was so thick I thought this has to go into a jar. And so as you can see, we've added the honeycomb to this particular jar, which kind of makes it unique. Here you see lots of bubbles in here. This was a beautiful golden color. When we dumped 3 gallons of honey in here, it stirred it up and made these bubbles. Bubbles will all settle. It doesn't change the flavor or the quality of the honey at all, but it does look really cool in the bucket. So it's pretty quick and easy to extract the honey. We put it underneath the spigot. We have a jar underneath for drips, and then we just do 1 jar at a time. Goes through pretty quickly. And depending on how wide open you open the spigot will determine how fast the honey comes out. We are done bottling, and we have a total here. Just to check my math, we have 130 pints, and we're going to divide that by 8 because there are 8 pints in a gallon. That gives us 16.25 gallons. Honey weighs 12 pounds a gallon, so we'll multiply that times 12. And our harvest was 195 pounds. That's almost 100 pounds. That's 95 pounds more than I expected. So we had a really good harvest for 2 hives. This is our first harvest this year. This is our spring harvest. The small hive we didn't harvest anything from, and we didn't harvest all of the honey from all of the honey supers from the other 2 hives. So with very little effort on my behalf throughout the year, really, bees are a very low maintenance hobby or pet. I guarantee you, if you have a cat, dog, or goldfish, you spend more time taking care of them than I do with my bees. But you don't get the honey. You do get the love, but you don't get the honey. This is LDS Prepper reminding you, if ye are prepared, ye shall not fear. And if you do decide to be a backyard beekeeper, you can have beautiful golden honey for your food storage and for your preps to share with your friends and neighbors and to enjoy yourself.